Senate Minority Whip, who joins us from the Capitol. Senator, let me ask you a little bit about what these gentlemen were touching on, the angst there that it's really up to the Federal Reserve, because with all respect to your colleagues on Capitol Hill, very little confidence that anything will be done to deal with this, and particularly inflation. What do you tell them?
Well, first off, Neil, is do no harm or follow the Hippocratic Oath, and I think that means stop spending. Now, what I'm hearing from people who follow these trends closely is that things are starting to slow down a little bit out there. Some of the money's running out. A lot of the government money that was flushed out there in the $1.9 trillion bill the Democrats pushed through last year on a party line vote, that's starting to dissipate a little bit. Things are calming down. So what you want to do right now is not contribute to stimulating or re-stimulating an economy where inflation is hopefully starting to find its way back to a level that's reasonable. That being said, I mean, I think the things that we can do here in Washington, and when I say we, I'm talking not just about Congress. Obviously, the Democrats run the House, the Senate, and the White House. But they could do some things, send some signals to markets. One would be on energy, for example. You know, quit crushing oil and gas production in this country. Send signals that encourage investment in the energy sector, because so much of that drives inflation as well.
Well, you know what they say, Senator, that they've done that, that the president has committed more lands for, drilling and the rest. You're quite right to point out that they also set aside far more lands that can never be drilled. But they say that was something Republicans demanded. We did it, you say.
Well, but you also need permits to drill. You've got to get, so much of this stuff goes through federal agencies and bureaucracies, which slow it down. And, the administration, too, even when it comes to financial institutions, equity funds, they're saying you got to invest in these certain types of projects. There are signals, market signals that are sent from this administration about government policy and expectations. And I think you can change some of those policies, lighten up the regulatory footprint out there, make it a light touch, not a heavy hand. And I think you could start seeing some investment come back into the energy sector. And if you do that, you start putting more supply out there, you'll start getting, I think, a reduction in inflation, because it'll start equalizing with the demand. But first off, stop spending money. And I think that's right now our job is to try and keep this on the rails until hopefully we get some reinforcements in November, and trying to keep the Democrats from adding to the problem by passing their massive so-called Build Back Better or massive tax and spending spree. I think that would be a huge mistake. But your previous guest points something out, and that's absolutely true, and that is investors look for certainty, they look for predictability, and we need to give them that. And I think, again, there are a number of things the administration could do, particularly in the energy sector, that would provide that kind of assurance.
Senator Thune, Joe Manchin, the West Virginia Democrat, also not too keen on the president's plan for much more spending. He is concerned about inflation. We don't know how the midterm elections will go, but there has been growing pressure on Senator Manchin. He's certainly gotten an earful from Democrats that he might be so frustrated he'll become a Republican. Do you think he should become a Republican, and would you welcome him if he did?
Well, of course we would, and I've had that conversation with him many times.
What does he tell you? What does he tell you? Because he's certainly sounding a lot more like it.
Well, without disclosing it, those are kind of private conversations.
No, feel free. Feel free.
I think that he is, at least right now, obviously in a position where he can have great influence over outcomes here in the Senate, and thank God for him, because he has stopped some major.
And you don't think he'd have that influence? You don't think he'd have that influence if he just switched to Republican? He carries more clout right now in this position.
I've argued that he would. I've argued that he could, name his own ticket, and we would welcome him very much into our caucus. And right now, that would give us a majority. I don't expect that to happen anytime soon. But the fact that he is, Joe understands and gets what's happening in the economy and is willing to put his foot down and stand up against some of these really liberal, sort of radical ideas his party's putting forward, that's a good thing for the country.